What's up, everybody? So today what we wanted to do was actually show you a few models that people don't generally give a lot of attention to. They're not some of the most popular ones, but they're just really, really cool, so we wanted to give them a little bit of love because the designers did a great job on them and they're really, really unique. So we just wanted to show you 10 things that you probably haven't seen before. One of the first ones, this is a model by Photos Mint, which is a Cthulhu model. And this is one of my favorite ones. It's actually a headphone stand. But I love really, really detailed models, and I also love really naturalistic models that have a lot of detail. Because they're difficult to sculpt and design and have look natural and intentional, as opposed to like hard parts like helmets and stuff where it's just, yeah, you make it symmetrical and it's smooth and straight and all the rest of it. But this kind of stuff where you have tentacles and eyeballs and divots and warts makes it difficult to model in a way that keeps it interesting but not convoluted, and makes it a piece that can actually stand by itself. This statue, even though it's meant for headphones, can just be put on a shelf, and it's just a really beautiful model. So that's a Cthulhu by Photos Mint. This is a Kang Hand, and the modeler for this was actually, let me double check right here, Marcelo Vieira. But this hand, I just like the hands, but it's this position right here from Kang. This is just a neat model because it is, again, simple, and it's a favorite character that doesn't get a lot of attention, but the spikes are great, the design of it is great, and again, this one is also intended as a headphone stand. Stick it right in there we are. But it's a nifty design and a different hand formation than what you normally see, because you always have a fist or whatever it happens to be. But that's just a neat character model. Alright, this one is designed by Dino and Dog. Again, the naturalistic model, I love these. But this gorilla, these sorts of statues they exist out there and that kind of thing, but this kind of thing is very difficult to manufacture. So I love this gorilla because even though it's hard to make, it's a great piece of detail, and it's a gorilla. Why wouldn't you want to see that more often? It is difficult for us to make mainly because of his teeth and that kind of thing, to keep the detail there. But again, the detail throughout the print, the patterning of the fur or the hair, and then the face and all the rest of it is just a great, great model. This one, Yuri Alicia. Yuri Alicia. I mean, of course. This one is not as popular as it should be. This model is a 3D representation of the LOL meme, which is just a neat thing to do, because we have like Handsome Squidward and a number of other ones. But this one is just a great version of it. So we love it for its uniqueness while also being completely ununique, because it's the LOL meme. But no, this model is just a lot of fun, because it's neat to see a 3D representation of a 2D drawing. Let's see here, what else we got? Undead Pharaoh. Golem tip. This statue, the skulls are always popular and people always like, but the Egyptian pharaoh here is a great model again. It's not the most complex, but it's just a really interesting take because yes, you have mummies, you have pharaohs, all that kind of stuff, but the melding of the two on this one and the skull theme of it is really, really nifty. And it's just, again, a really unique one for people who want something that's kind of stylized in their life and the Egyptian sort of lore. So that's an awesome model in that context. Sci-fi dark armor. This is Sabirdra. So this sci-fi dark armor, it's a high-tech piece of a helmet, basically. So again, it doesn't have the same amount of detail as like the organic shapes, but the way it's set up, it is a nice stylized version of what you normally see in sci-fi, because everybody's seeing exoskeletons and the ninjas or snake eyes or whatever it happens to be, but because of that, not a lot of people do anything really original, and this is a really original take on high-tech armor. You can see all kind of like the circuitry lines there and the parts and the pieces. It would have been really easy for them to just create a model that was smooth back here, and then yes, you have the sharp face scooping down, and then you're kind of like inspired by like medieval knights. But this one, the fact that they went to the extra effort and even like on the neck have like linkages, like metal links that go together, gives this an upscaling that makes it way more interesting than most typical helmets are. So that's why this one made the list, because it's up from what you normally see. And again, since it's not like a character or some of the tropes of like sci-fi ninjas, it's a lot more unique than most of those. Kind of going back to the skull theme, this model is just awesome. If you're into dirt biking or motocross or anything like that, this is just a nifty model. You have, of course, the skull inside of the helmet. That's not that incredibly unique, except for the fact that where else would you find this? But again, for the quality of the design, it's real easy to create a motocross helmet on the outside, but then they did all these divots on the inside for the air vents on the helmet that go all the way around to the back. And then if you really want to see the effort put into it, the skull has teeth modeled inside of there. So even though it's covered and it could have just molded the helmet back into the skull, the teeth are present and detailed inside of there, which is an extra little cherry on top that wasn't really necessary to create the model. But the fact that this one doesn't really have an exceptional amount of detail, they're very concise with the amount of detail that they put into it, makes it a really great model, because they're restrained and to the point, while at the same time putting it where it needs to be and never being lazy, but being clean and elegant. And it's just a neat model. Legend Expert designed this model. This one, again, kind of in the realm of being unique. A lot of people have done skulls, a lot of people do a skull inside of a helmet and that kind of thing. There are variations of those. Now there's ways to be unique with that, like with the motocross one, but to create a whole new character and kind of a back character story is rarer. So all of these tubes, it's kind of like a Borg skull. It really is something out of Star Trek. But again, it's unique to where you have this zombie sci-fi-esque character that you haven't seen before. And it doesn't have an exceptional amount of detail, but again, it has detail where it counts, which makes it a really good product that's easy to manufacture and also stands out because it's not washed out with the detail. It actually has it where it needs to be to really highlight the tubes and the idea of this science fiction, mechanistic, organic character. So this is, again, a really, really neat model because you can see the intent when a designer goes and creates something like this. Cult movie fans out there? So, They Live. They Live is a movie from like the 1970s, I believe, which was about a man that can see the world as it actually is through a pair of glasses, and he finds out that aliens are basically controlling all the media and advertising of humans, and this is one of the aliens. It's mainly interesting because not a lot of people have seen that movie unless you're a big movie buff, but it does kind of hold a spot in modern media modern content and movies of kind of how cheesy it was and yet how good it was. Because it was an original idea, and it was executed pretty darn well. But this is one of the aliens. The model itself is interesting, but it gets all the detail of the aliens, which are, yes, this very veiny, basically skinless person. But in the movie, everything was always black and white when you saw the aliens. So this model is great for that because it doesn't need to have any of the colors involved because the natural characters in that movie didn't have any colors associated with them. So that's that model. So, presidential characters. These models are done by Yal Grimbecki. They're caricatures. You always see comic representations of presidents and politicians and historical figures. But again, kind of that idea of bringing the 2D into the 3D. These caricatures are basically large bobbleheads that are not a common thing that you see very often. These are Ford and Gerald Ford and who's the other one? Garfield, I think so. Can't tell from this angle. But these caricatures, there's a whole collection of them. Basically, all of the presidents through like the 1950s and 1960s, and then some of the more recent ones, to where he's stretched them out and create these comic figures, which are great for history buffs who want to have a little bit of fun with it, but are also, again, just a real great artistic demonstration because it's hard to take something that exists and really morph it into something new and different that is unique and stands on its own. And these are definitely something that stand on their own.